Welcome to At Scale, the Tennessee Achieves podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, Tennessee Achieves President and CEO. Tennessee Achieves seeks to be humble but ambitious, disruptive yet intentional, and student-focused while also data-driven. We believe our mission is simple: enhance post-secondary opportunities and outcomes by providing holistic student supports rooted in community and accountability at scale. But the work is much more complex. Since 2008, we've broken some things in a great way. We've built many things, and we've created something that stems from the idea that a college credential can be a powerful equalizer. From helping individual students navigate the complexities of college to shaping the way Tennessee thinks about preparing and educating tomorrow's workforce, this podcast explores how Tennessee Achieves intersects with partners across our state and throughout the country. Let's dig in with state and national thought partners, business and industry leaders, college and K-12 representatives, and all the others in between that inform, inspire, and interconnect with Tennessee Achieves work. Here we go. Welcome back to the At Scale podcast. I'm Chrissy D'Alejandro, and today, once again, we have Graham Thomas, who serves as the, oh no, I'm going to do it again, Graham, the Chief Government Relations and Community Partnerships person here.
Yeah, that's it.
Title, seriously.
That's it. You got it.
No, it's totally not it. I'm so excited for today's conversation. As a total political science nerd, this scratches an itch that I've had on the podcast for a while. And I know that you also we're not a political science major, but are a super nerd in this space too.
Yeah, I was dead set on working in politics until I went to DC and did it for a year. And I was like, maybe just doing some politics on the side is more my speed.
Well, I mean, it serves you well now in the role that you're in, right? You find it interesting. It what stokes a fire in your belly, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And it keeps that whole politics policy itch scratched. And I get to do some other things too. So it's a nice combination of the two.
Do you remember this conversation that we had last year when we were sitting in Legislative Plaza and we were thinking about how lucky that we were? They are just advocating for more students into post-secondary, more students out of post-secondary and going into the workforce, because there are a lot of things that I would not want to be talking about in this political space just in general.
Yeah, and so far, since I've started doing this government relations role, it's been all good news, which is certainly helpful. Yeah. And we're getting to talk about the work that we're doing, that Tennessee Promise is doing, and we don't have any real big detractors. And so, yes, it makes it much easier to go do that. And one of those people that I get to go talk about all this work with is our guest on the podcast today. And I remember the first time that Michael was in our space. We were at TCAT Smyrna. It was some TBR convening. I don't remember exactly.
I remember this.
But he had a few.
It was that let's all come together and talk about the external work from the community college group.
Yes, that was it. Yeah.
I think it was just new on the job. Maybe
I think brand new. I think only been there for maybe days. Certainly not more than a few weeks. And I remember listening. What's the first day? I remember listening to his take and being like, he gets it. We've got someone in the governor's office that understands the work and gets the work. And now fast forward a couple of years later, we've gotten to work more closely with Michael Hendrix, who is our guest today, policy director for Governor Bill Lee. And I can say a few years down the road now, he still gets it. And every time that I get to go meet with him and spend time with him, we're fortunate in our state to have a person that is leading this work. And I don't know that I can say any other bigger compliment than just that understands it, understands what we're trying to accomplish, understands the pipeline from higher ed to the workforce, has previously spent time at the Manhattan Institute with the United States Chamber of Commerce Foundation, working on a wide variety of different issues. We're going to get to talk to him a little bit about that today. But Michael, thank you for being here and welcome to the Tennessee Achieves podcast.
It's good to be with you. It's a real honor. And man, I promise I didn't pay for that kind of introduction, but it's priceless. Thank you. It's really good to be with you all. Massive respect for everything you guys do. And it's totally true. Chrissy, Graham, it's been great working with you guys. There's a lot more we get to do together.
I know. I'm so excited for what comes next, and we'll get to that. But I would love like reading your bio. So I'm going to guess you've had an interesting journey to where you are now. Walk us through that. I'm so curious.
Yeah, so I wasn't so fortunate to be born here in Tennessee, but I got here as fast as I could. And I grew up in Texas. Actually grew up homeschooled. Went off to college, went to DC. You all know my bio that Graham had, but I was really fascinated about how to make a difference in communities, kind of closer to people, and where like families are being raised, businesses are being started, jobs are being created. And for me, Tennessee felt like coming home to that dream, felt like coming home to the American dream. And I just need to find a way to get here. But thankfully, my wife and I, we had a ton of friends, family here. So when we moved here, we haven't looked back. It's been an absolute joy. And to be able to work for Governor Lee has been a real honor and a joy. It's the best state led by a good man with great people. And it's a time and place right now, Tennessee right now, just unbelievable opportunity for generations to come. So that's really been why it's been so exciting to be here now, and why it's truly been an honor of my life.
Michael, talk to us a little bit about that. Like, what drew you to Tennessee? Like, when this opportunity arose, like, what made you like jump in and be like, yeah, that's what I want to go do?
Yeah. I mean, so one thing, like I said, is like now's the time. Now's the time for Tennessee. I mean, you saw during COVID, it was a topsy-turvy time for a lot of people. But we were the most moved to state in America. Literally. U-Haul, they ran out of U-Hauls in California, right? But that we were the place where they were all going, for better or worse, right? I mean, but we were a place where people said, whether you're from the coast, whether you're from other parts of the South, whether you're from the Midwest, Tennessee is a place that you can come home to. Again, find a job, start a family. We Over the past handful of years, we've had the lowest unemployment in Tennessee history, some of the greatest number of jobs created, the biggest economic development announcements, record enrollment, record take up of whether it's scholarships, jobs, colleges. It's incredible. So being able to come here at this time was really the right time. But it's also personal. I'd spent most of my life and my career kind of up to this point. I'd say if I could encapsulate it, it's focusing on opportunity, what it means and takes to have a better life for you, for your kids. And Governor Lee really ran for office with that in mind. Good jobs, great schools, strong families. That's kind of the foundation for why he ran. It's a foundation, I think, for what makes Tennessee tick, and has really been the North Star for everything we've been doing over the past handful of years.
Yeah, I think that is so true. I mean, as a lifelong Tennessean, I even went to college here. I did a brief stint. So I saw that you went to school in Scotland. I did a brief stint at Oxford, but came right back home. Um, I agree. I think it's interesting how over the last, and I think this is true of Governor Lee. I think it was true of Bill Haslam. I also think that there is something to be said about the continuum between Bredesen and Haslam. It just feels like all the stars have aligned for a very long time. I think about how leadership really sort of breeds great policy. And I'm curious to know how your move from, I mean, it seems like prior to this, you were sort of a think tanky guy, right? Like the cerebral, write the white paper, do the research guy. And now you're like thick in the policy. How are those two things like complementary of one another? How has that been something that you're like, gosh, this is something now that I wish like think tank guy knew as, this policy practitioner guy?
Yeah, it's one thing to think, it's another to do, and
Yeah.
it's great in this job to be able to think and do. And you know, I this job as policy director is a chance, first and foremost, to be able to listen. We have folks like you all who are actually leading in the community, growing the future generation at scale, supporting all these students, being able to then plug them into good careers and have a hope, a future, and a family. That's incredible. you're doing the actual work. I'm not. Um, I need to listen to you. And for anybody who's listening, that's been one of the great roles. One of the great parts of this job is be able to sit down again with Graham, Chrissy, and be able to learn and get ideas to be able to implement them. I think the other thing, not only listen, is to then learn and figure out how we can apply what we've learned, what I've heard, and be able to partner again with you all, partner with lawmakers and General Assembly, partner with local communities, and figure out how to get some of this stuff done. There's a lot to do. We are blessed. You mentioned this earlier. We're blessed in so many respects. We've had great leadership for so many years and so much continuity. But there's no time to rest on our laurels. We can say that what was novel and groundbreaking, say in higher ed, or the creation of a Tennessee Promise Scholarship, novel, groundbreaking, first of its kind, Tennessee leading the nation. But other states catch up. We're competing for talent. We're competing for the future. Sure. And so the last thing we should do is rest on our laurels. We need to be thinking about what we need for the future, how to stay ahead of all these other states. Again, not just to compete, but because Tennesseans deserve that. Tennesseans deserve to have a future. And we're in this like incredible time of change. Just look at just how much is changing with AI alone. We have this moment right now to be able to say, okay, great. Let's listen, let's learn, let's get everybody together, and let's press forward because the time is now. The need is now.
So you're talking about some of these great things that Tennessee has done and kind of hinted at it about what's next. And so if you're listening to this and you're not in that state government world, the budget cycle is kind of the big thing that everybody gets excited about every year. They're waiting to see what's in it. It's the one thing I think constitutionally our legislature is required to do is to pass a budget. So what's next? What are you guys thinking about? You've got one big budget cycle left to go. What are you guys excited about?
Well, so, as we think about next year, we're also kind of looking backwards as well in a good way, saying, okay, what have we accomplished? When we sat down with the team and the governor, looking at the second term, we picked kind of five principles to guide us. Five principles, by the way, that pointed back to what Governor Lee originally ran on. But those five principles are, and I mentioned some of them earlier, three of them at least: good jobs, great schools, strong families. Good jobs, great schools, strong families, but also safe neighborhoods and a better future. So whatever the governor's administration is doing kind of fits in those five buckets. Those help guide us. It's things that he knew from people he knows. It's rural Tennessee. It's things that he hears from kids hoping for a better life, from dads and moms, from businesses. It's things that he hears and knows. It also came from us identifying goals and metrics with the team and then kind of mobilizing them with clear goals, metrics, and roadmap. Obviously, workforce is a key part of that. And then as we look back, we say, okay, well, there's some big themes that emerge. Education is one of them, and I'll just say broadly, education, workforce, kind of thinking K to career, energy, opportunity. Those are things that really stand out. And there's a lot that we can be thankful for just on the K through 12 side. The rebound in literacy in Tennessee is just incredible. We're one of the very few states that over the past handful of years has really moved forward. A lot of other states are stagnating. We put a lot of money behind and a lot of resources and talent behind things like high impact tutoring and learning recovery. Understanding that, the need to learn to read up to third and fourth grade is really important because from then on, you're reading to learn. And that was a huge priority. We've also put, more than together with the General Assembly, more than $2.5 billion extra just in state dollars alone in our public school system. And then, of course, for those who've been following this, education freedom scholarships this past year being able to invest in a wide range of school choice, whatever the student needs and whatever the parent sees their student needs. We want to make sure that you have a wide range of choice from public to public charters to private schools and scholarships available for you to do that. And then say, great, how do we manage that transition from K-12 to career in the workforce. That's obviously where you guys come in. But none of that can kind of work if you don't have the jobs, if you don't have the employers, if you don't have the energy to back them. So as we looked kind of, we could spend the entire podcast talking about all of that. But when we look at where we've been, it helps us know where we're going. And so I think continuing to prioritize educational workforce, energy, whatever makes for a better opportunity for Tennesseans for the future, that's going to be what's going to guide us for the final year. And obviously, we have great partners in the General Assembly who we can work together with, whether to fund it, whether it needs legislation, whatever it takes. And then also with the federal government, we have great friends and partners there. Whatever's needed, we're going to use this time. We're going to act as if time is short, because it is. And we're going to act with all of our partners to get as much done so that Tennessee is in a strong footing for generations to come, and that we can hand that off to whoever comes next in the best place.
Yeah, I think I love guiding principles, right? It's like there's a North Star out there that you guys are constantly referencing in an effort to try to focus. There's a lot of competing interests, right? Especially when you're the policy director. When you reflect on specifically this workforce bucket, which I'm guessing is near and dear to you, considering you're a former chamber guy, what do you think moves the needle there? I mean, I know Governor Lee has been obviously so great to Tennessee Achieves and how we're able in this pilot phase to show how coaching and completion grants move the community college graduation rates. I know he's doing a lot of rural work. I also know all the investment in our technical institutions, in our four-year institutions. I mean, he's really put a big tent around the word college. I think he's done an excellent job of that. When you think about what moves this workforce needle, what's top of mind for you guys in this last year there?
Yeah, so getting back to the point that you made about how you need kind of principles and North Stars, I think that's relevant here. I think that Governor Lee looks at, first of all, companies in Tennessee that are investing in Tennessee, growing in Tennessee. They want talent. They also want a seamless experience in accessing the relevant talent that they need to grow. So those companies. And then for the people of Tennessee, understanding that, as maybe a North Star, believing that all Tennesseans of all ages should have access to high quality educational choices and workforce training that empowers them to achieve their full potential and continue to contribute to our state's kind of continued growth. And that for Tennesseans in those environments, as they learn, that they should be able to seamlessly access those options, that they should be able to seamlessly transition from education to workforce, that they should be able to earn quality credentials of value and succeed in sustainable occupations that contribute to their economic independence. And so those can kind of form the North Stars for us. And that also kind of, by the way, represents a journey that a student and companies have in Tennessee. It's obviously what I think I could say Tennessee Achieves is supporting at scale. And that personal touch obviously is helping students succeed. We talked about this earlier, over 53,000 graduates that tnAchieves has. We also know that kind of structured, proactive mentoring with kind of clear milestones works. That's part of the principle that we applied to summer learning, saying we are not going to let any student down as they learn to read. It's that important that we're going to put tutoring, we're going to do summer school, we're going to do whatever it takes, because we know that matters to learning at the K-12 level, especially that critical time of third and fourth grade. But that same principle also applies to things like, of course, college enrollment, college persistence, college completion. We were also, seeing that we need to be thinking about the K to career pathway holistically, and understanding that that a student on that journey should have not only like all the options available to them and be able to access those options, that they should get that they should know that they have a vision of that, what that pathway looks like, the data to be able to support that, the tutoring, the mentoring to be able to know what that looks like. That's really what we're working on today. Getting students on that pathway to success, making sure they're aware of what those pathways are, bridging gaps, supporting students. Obviously, this is, again, all of what tnAchieves does, but be able to do that across Tennessee, it's daunting, but it's needed. It's necessary. There's no other choice as far as we're concerned. So that's a lot of what we're looking at.
And I think that's so important because I think what we know after doing this for almost 20 years is that where you lose the student is during the handoffs, right?
Yep.
Like when you hand off from K-12 to post-secondary, that's a slip. When you hand off from, and I think this is a space that we're really trying to be intentional about. And I love that in Tennessee specifically, and I will tell you, I sit on a lot of national boards and have a lot of national conversations. They're not able to bring employer voice in quite like we are. And I think that starts at the top with how the governor, you kicked off with employer voice matters, and it very much does. And I think about that handoff from post-secondary to workforce, and it is a different ballgame than it was 25 years ago when I left post-secondary, right? Like it really does need to be much more intentional. And to your point, start so much earlier so that students understand that when you are earning this credential, is it a credential of value, or is it going to lead you to maybe a place of not being able to have that really quick handoff? Are you guys, and I know you guys are thinking about that as well.
Yeah, and back to the point on companies, they obviously play a key role in that handoff.
Yes.
And so, one of the things that Governor Lee Taylor, the General Assembly, invested in this year was something that we're calling TN Works. So it's meant to bring together the business side, the corporate side, and ECD, our Economic Development Department, bring that together with labor, and be able to say, okay, let's map and meet the workforce needs of these companies, then work with our whole network, public and private, of higher ed institutions.
Mm-hmm.
That could be TCATs, could be community colleges, could be other forms of four-year institutions, and be able to say, or by the way, micro-credentials, apprenticeships. Let's have the entire network available to employers. But then we can't stop there, because now we've got to find and place the students into that network and that systems. It's daunting. It's going to take a lot of work. One of the great things, though, is that by setting that as a goal, it's another way that we're continuing to bring everybody together and be able to bring everybody at the right table. That's not the only solution, but it's definitely a solution, definitely something that's like table stakes as far as we're concerned for that moment of transition. So all that to say is, we zoom out, we're looking, yes, at the student, we're also looking at the job, we're looking at institutions, and trying to knit it all together.
So as we think about connecting those students to the workforce, what role do we play? Where does the tnAchieves come into the equation?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think that tnAchieves is ultimately very well placed in helping, obviously, empower Tennesseans to achieve their full promise. They're fulfilling that promise is I imagine, in your DNA. And that vision, that mission, is also central to what how Governor Lee views all of this. Obviously, as we talked about earlier, we're first state in the nation to have a promise program. And so we're now seeing, 10 plus years later, that demand's never been greater. Graduation rates up, demand's great. Governor's obviously put $1 billion into TCATs. We've cut the waiting list. But tnAchieves being able to help you go from school to college and college to career, I think that's really important. I think another element that we have not touched on, and we should, is this matters especially for those who are, say, from tough neighborhoods, where maybe this kind of hope, promise, and opportunity has not always been there. I think that's a real area where we want to lean in. That also includes those who are first generation college going. where higher ed has not been part of the picture historically for their families. The families want it for them. They want it. That to me is a real opportunity. On the job side, I think there's still room for us to grow on labor force participation. I mean, it's kind of a wonky data term, but it's really about saying, is someone in a job with real opportunity?
Mm-hmm.
And we have room to grow there too. We shouldn't be blinded at that. Our labor force participation rate in Tennessee is still below the national average. We're still being bested by some of our peers in the South, but we've made progress. We know where we can make progress, and people in regions of this state. I think there's a huge opportunity there for tnAchieves, for us to be able to work together, to be able to make sure that someone is actually in that job, and then it's a job of real opportunity, and crucially, that those credentials aligned with that long-term potential.
Yeah, I think it's so critical. And, I think we oftentimes talk about like urban, suburban, rural, but when you're a first generation student that's been a part of generational poverty, like the work is very similar. And we think about that often here, considering when you think about this transition from high school to post-secondary, that's super foreign, right? Like to that student population. And so you get them sort of acclimated, and then you just smother them to try to keep them there and to make sure that they're on a track that leads to this economic independence. And then we've got to sell the story of why it's so important to then enter the workforce and continue to upskill and continue to learn and continue to bring value. And so, Michael, we're stepping into this space now with some mentoring. We're calling it workforce mentorship. So we'll always have the access mentoring. We obviously are deeply invested in community and technical college graduation rates with our coaches on campus, but now we're lifting up workforce mentoring. So volunteers in the community who are paired with our college sophomores at the community colleges to help with this, what seems like a huge divide for many of our students. We talk to them, we have focus groups. Obviously, our coaches are talking to them, and they don't know how to go out and find high quality employment oftentimes. And so, to your point, we're doing better, but there's still this disconnect. And how do we bring students together? And one of the ways we're doing that is this new opportunity for our volunteers to come in and say, okay, I was a plumber and you want to be a plumber, like, let's get you connected. And I know the TCATs do a great job of that, but I think there's so much to be said about demystifying a lot of these career pathways. We're also doing job shadowing, which I think is maybe the best thing that we've got going right now for not only our students, but also our employers to get exposure to our students. So I just think that our ecosystem is just ripe for all of this. And I'm so grateful for the groundwork that has been laid by the Lee administration.
Well, and you I think made such a good point that it's one thing to be tutored or mentored, but it's another thing too to know what your future could look like, to be able to see it, to make it tangible and real.
Mm-hmm.
I know that mattered. I was lucky, but I know that mattered even for me to be able to like wrap my mind around what my future could look like. And once I could see it and imagine it, it was also easier for me to imagine how to get there, right? And who could help me along the way. It's huge. One of the things we're also proud of, and hugely proud of our Department of Labor for making it happen, is the youth employment program.
Mm-hmm.
We just said, look, let's find the employers who need some folks, even part-time. Let's find a youth who have, a summer that they need to fill. Let's fill it for them. Let's get them into a job. We'll help make it worthwhile for the employer. Because we know there's been a ton of studies on these kind of youth employment programs.
Oh, they're huge. It's huge.
And the benefits are enormous to the employer, the community, but most of all, the student. And it doesn't just matter for their, career and imagining college or whatever that could look like. Also in fighting crime, in being able to help knit together communities. It's huge. And we've just seen enormous uptake, both on the youth side and the employer side. Again, is that the one silver bullet? No, but is it making a difference to literally hundreds of kids' lives right now? Absolutely. And I can't wait to see what kind of a difference that will make now over years and decades to come.
I think that you pointed us to the Department of Labor and the Youth Employment Program, and we have gone and we have met with them, and they are going to hold spots for Tennessee Achieves and Tennessee Promise students. So, I mean, again, I think that just shows like the synergy and the partnership that we have. We started having this conversation about how we engage in the workforce, and you immediately gave us the thing to go do.
Which we
That's
love.
so encouraging. That's
Yeah.
so encouraging. Thanks for
We
sharing
want to
that.
do all the things, and we want our students to have exposure. I mean, I grew up in rural Tennessee, the first in my family to go to college. I didn't even know that you could lead a nonprofit. I didn't know that that was like a grown-up job that someone could do, right? I mean, you can't, if you can't see it, it's hard to imagine being it, to your point. And so I do think that we are uniquely positioned at the scale at which we work to change some of those narratives, right? I mean, we can do all this investment in mentoring. We can do all this investment in lifting the graduation rates. But I also think that there's work, and we're working on this now. So if you have smart ideas, send them our way, Michael. But how do we change the narrative that, you know, I think it's a narrative around being a machinist is a very worthwhile career. I think it's a narrative around, yes, there's still value in post-secondary, and we're not saying four-year institution alone, Big Ten around the word college. I think there's just still this, what I refer to as swirl, that we can really change the narrative around. So, like I said, send us your smart ideas. Okay, I have one final question. If Graham has something, obviously you can jump in. As you think about Governor Lee's legacy, it's going to be a legacy time for you guys as he's making what will no doubt be a productive victory lap, but a victory lap no less. What's top of mind? What's the narrative coming out of your office, and how can we help promote this last year to be his best year yet?
So as we, when you think about what Governor Lee ran on, there were things like rural Tennessee, growing rural Tennessee, more opportunity in rural Tennessee. And that's an incredible story, cutting the number of distressed counties in half during his time in office, 93 out of 95 counties growing the population, lowest unemployment in state history, combined with the two largest tax cuts in Tennessee history, the biggest economic development programs, overwhelmingly located in more rural parts of Tennessee. That is what he ran on. Those were promises he made, and I believe promises kept. But we're not letting up. Absolutely not. As long as Governor Lee's in the seat here that he's in, he's going to continue to push and fight for rural Tennessee. I think we mentioned earlier on education workforce, how Governor Lee's vision was to continue to press forward on 4-year college going, continue to push that, while also saying that, there's a wide range of jobs available. There's a wide range of pathways available to students. So if TCAT is in your future, let's make it as easy as possible. Let's make TCATs as best as possible. Let's make sure that you have apprenticeships available to you, jobs, you name it. And community colleges, while community colleges across the country, you're seeing enrollments go down, that's not really necessarily been the story here in Tennessee. Community colleges continue to thrive, and Governor Lee's been putting investments in, say, even nuclear programs in our community colleges. There's not a lot of other states that can brag that not only do we have the top nuclear engineering program in the country, just beat the Aggies on that account. Thank you, UT. But we can also say, great, you need welders, experienced welders for the next generation of small modular reactors. Great, we got them for you. If you need anybody, we've got that talent pipeline for the next generation of nuclear. But it's also true for AI, you name it. We have the capabilities. Now we need to get the folks in the classrooms and in those careers. And with partners like you all, tnAchieves, we are doing that. And then I think as he looks out, not just in his legacy, but for their future, there's no reason why we can't. If we can wave a magic wand, I think would want to be as ambitious as possible. So there's no reason why we shouldn't set really ambitious, hairy goals for this state. And obviously, we've got year and a half left. There's only so much time we have. But Governor Lee is really he's thinking generationally. So how can what we're doing today benefit Tennesseans for generations to come? And so we should continue to think, how can we be leading the nation in jobs, in college graduation, in opportunity for your kids to have an even better life than you have today? He really believes we should not shy away from saying, yeah, we're going to be number one in the nation. Why not? We should be. People come to Tennessee because they can have a future, because they can live the American dream. We need to guarantee that for generations to come. And together, we absolutely will.
Yeah, it's a really incredible overview of the work. I mean, listening to the population growth, you said 93 out of 95 counties. And I remember those early promise days going and visiting the rural counties across Tennessee and talking about how many more students we needed to go graduate from college, go to college, graduate from college, earn some type of credential. And just some of them just thinking like, we can do that, but there's not a lot of opportunity here if they go and get a degree. And it sounds like it's been such a focus and it's been a win. I mean, just incredible progress for communities all across our state.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. It's incredible. With every corner of Tennessee growing and seeing more jobs, we got to keep it up. We can't let our foot off the gas. Not at all.
No, and I think we're just so poised, to your point, to do great things. I know this year will be no exception. Michael, thanks for time. This has been so fun and so enlightening. Thanks for coming and scratching our political nerd itch.
Thank you. It's an honor. Keep doing the great work you're doing, and we'll continue to work together. Thank you.
Great. Yeah.
Sounds great. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of At Scale, the Tennessee Achieves podcast. Each conversation is a step toward a deeper understanding of how we can collectively expand opportunity and increase post-secondary access and success for all students in Tennessee. To continue following this work, be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Subscribing ensures you never miss an episode, and your rating or review helps others discover the stories and insights that we'll share. Together, we're not only supporting students, we're building Tennessee's future workforce. Thank you for listening.